Welcome back, everyone. Here on the weekly performance report, we will be discussing my weekly performance as the title would suggest. So, with that said, noticeable activities over the last week. I bought more Grown Rogue, and that is all I bought in regards to purchases this week. A lot of the names did decent enough over the week, but one did or hit a good milestone, and that's the 100% milestone. If you recall, a few weeks ago, Tidewater hit the 100% milestone in my portfolio, and then it subsequently gave 20 or 25% of it back. So that's always nice. And then so it's where, let's fast forward here. Now it's up 87%. So it's retraced 50% of that. So I'll just go on and read this here so that way I don't miss anything. A few weeks ago, Tidewater was the first stock in the Cup of Coffee Capital portfolio to breach the 100% threshold, or to reach the 100% threshold. Naturally, it then proceeded to give back roughly 20%. Well, Kinross Gold deserves an honorary mention, being that it's now the second stock to hit that 100% mark. Let's see what happens from here. So here's a screenshot in this image right here of my purchase history and cost basis with Kinross. First purchase was February 22nd, 2023, so almost 2 months in the existence of Cup of Coffee Capital. And then the most recent one was March of this year. I remember taking a starter position back in Feb 2023, thinking that I had time to incrementally add to my position. Remember, Cup of Coffee Capital was still very much in its infancy stage back then. Unbeknownst to me at the time was that I was bottom ticking it within a couple of week period. I added more on my position during the whole banking fiasco that occurred in March 2023. Do you remember that? It's amazing all the drama that happens in the markets. That's long gone. Many of those banking stocks have improved radically. I remember my KRE position closed out in a couple of months, up 50% from all that. But I digress. But after I finished my purchases in March 2023, I sat idle for the next year. Oftentimes, when a person sees a 100% gain, especially newbies in this industry, they often don't realize what occurred over that time frame or how long that time frame was. In order for me to have a 100% gain on Kinross has essentially required me to own it for over a year, and much of those gains have been the consequence of just the last few months. You'll note that in March 2024, I added to my position for the first time in almost a year. It seemed to me that gold was finally on the move, and that it might be my last chance to add to a position that wasn't too large of a position to begin with. Although it was a single purchase, it increased my position by 60%. I was both lucky and or right because I'm up 70% since then on that position. So if we look back at this image, March 6, 2024, I bought, cost basis total, $53.80. And that's 60% of the cumulative purchases I made before that. So in one fell swoop, I increased my position by, let's just call it half. And since that purchase, that position in itself is up 71.19%. And then my very first purchase back in February 2023 is up 145%, which is often the case. Like my Grown Rogue position, my very first purchase on that is up. Well, let's look at this. So Grown Rogue, I think I'm up, 12%. So 12.64% on that position. And ticker symbol GRUSF. And my first purchase of that is up, 145%. And then subsequent purchases kind of dwindled from there. And as a consequence of me adding and adding and adding, I increased my cost basis. So instead of being up 140% on Grown Rogue, I'm up 12% on Grown Rogue. So all of this works for you or works against you. So that's worthwhile to keep in mind. So in regards to the Kinross situation, this isn't a brag but an observation and walk down memory lane. It's stupid to brag about a 4% portfolio position stock going up 100% while my three largest positions are only up 3 to 5 or up roughly 5 to 15%. I wasn't What? You know, it's nice when a person writes a sentence correctly. I just wanted to share how I got to that 100% gain. Let's not forget that gold miners were deeply out of favor in early 2023. And let's not forget that Kinross traded range bound from April 2023 through February 2024. So I bought in February of 23, I bought some more in March of 23, and then pretty much from there until a few months ago, the stock was range bound, up 10%, down 10%, not really any meaningful of a move. So I pretty much sat and did money for a year. Now, I was clipping something like a 3% dividend along the way, which does help. Oh, what is it? I can't think of the word. It's always a word I'm trying to remember. You're not supposed to have awkward silence pauses during a video, so maybe if I just ramble long enough, the word will come to me, but it's not. So that's going to bother me. I'll have to think about it after the video or move on to something else and completely forget about it. So I was making that 3% dividend along the way. Due to fortune of my cost basis, I didn't have to suffer much of a pullback along the way, which often accompanies 100% gains. Where does it go from here? I don't know. But my guess is that if I want to squeeze another 100% out of this name, that aforementioned sufferable pullback that I mentioned will occur. So that's just a little walk down memory lane and understanding oftentimes what happens, what it often takes, not the statistical outliers, but in general, what it takes to get 100% return. It takes time and volatility more often than not. Sure, you could buy a LAR like I did a few weeks ago, and then it can run up 50% in 3 days. But then since then, it's pretty much given the entire move back. Why? Because they pre-announced, and seemingly it's only a roughly 10% quarter over quarter growth that they had, even though it's still a 70% year over year growth, and then the stock dumped again, so one could rinse and repeat if they want to, but I can't say I want to. As I noted last week or the week before, I'm trying to minimize my trading, at least take a break from it. Probably best not to do it. Even when it is a net positive, like in 2023, my trading of stocks, let's call it, which I consider generally a swing trade, so a few days or a few weeks, but anything that I held for less than a year is really kind of a good way to call something a trade. Non-long-term core positions, how about that? Last year it was a net positive, but to a small extent. If just one trade went the wrong way severely on me, it would have been a net negative. So I can't say that I'm a sufficient materially good trader. I just don't believe that's the case. So, but sometimes you just see things and you want to do it, and you start building a cash position, and that's why I like trading, because I have the cash. I know it's a trade. I know I can get out of it quickly and then recycle that capital back into cash to deploy to something longer term, and that's what causes me to do it, or that's what enables me. That's how I justify it. But nonetheless, I ended the week up 1.68%, and I don't know, I'm pretty sure that S&P 500 is beating me. I'm confident the S&P 500 at this point this week is beating me. And I don't know, some names are positive again, but not much. The A-Mark, Precious Metals, I'm positive again. St. Joe, positive again. The thing's just range bound, whatever. And the interesting one, perhaps the most quote-unquote impressive, would be my Genius Sports, which I don't talk about. I believe I made a publication about gambling or casinos. I can't remember the title of the video, I think a month or two ago about it, and just some rough basic numbers. And I never talk about it. I don't even think about it, really. I actually think about Flutter and DraftKings more than I think about Genius Sports, which doesn't quite make sense being that I don't own them, but tangentially associated, same industry, even though Genius Sports is part of a sub-niche in that broader industry and sector. But nonetheless, it's up. Maybe it's finally moving after a little few month basing formation. I don't know. It's still not even at all-time highs of its yearly all-time highs. So it ran up really hard at the beginning of the year, pulled back a lot. That's when I bought it. And anyway, it's up 14.36%. So that's interesting. And see what happens from there. We had that massive rotation that happens one day every year where all the small caps and value investors and so on and so forth get excited. And I think the IWM was up like 3.5%, and the NASDAQ was down 2%, so that's a 5.5% spread. I think that was the second largest. I've seen people say it was the largest, but then I saw someone say that was the second largest, second to some date in 2008. And so either way, one of the largest spreads ever. So is that an inflection point or this or that? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I have no opinion on the matter. I'm not getting my hopes up. And yet again, I'm too ignorant to even on the matter of, is this that great rotation that everybody talks about every year that's a evergreen story seemingly? I have no opinion on the matter. My default baseline response is no. Now that doesn't mean that the Qs can't go up more than the IWM goes up, but IWM going up as well. I mean, that could happen as well. Anyway, that's that. Yeah, I don't want to be impartial here and show my losers. Decibel, that's down 26%, and then Rubicon, that's down 15%. I believe, yeah, no, I did. I published an article on Rubicon if you want to go read about that. I've not really written or spoken on Decibel, and I mean, maybe I will, but I haven't yet. So that's that. That's really all I have to say. So thank you for watching, and until next time.